And now we return for the second half of Saber Rider. You might be wondering why I decided to bunch up these episodes together. I presume you are familiar with the concept of a recap episode. It's a type of filler that sums up all the stories so far in a series by showing clips of past episodes. And they are usually not very well liked, especially on the internet age. But somehow, Bismarck managed to make this even worse by creating not one, but 2 episodes made of 90% reused set pieces from previous chapters. Since I've been watching a lot of this show, I could pinpoint where every single clip is coming from, but that would be putting way more effort than they did. The actual plot is simple. The team is trying to destroy the last holdout of the Deadcula in Ganymede. The first episode ends with a twist, after copying Shinji's fight with Gatler from episode 5, which has been crudely replaced by the dude that died in episode 17. Except, this time, Shinji does not escape and ends up in the hospital. This leads to temporal anime memory loss, and more recycled scenes all the way to the end. This was probably the worst type of filler episode I have ever seen. At least it's over now. This episode starts with every member of the team in different parts of the world for their vacation, but one by one they get called back to the army. It's worth mentioning that this is the first time Saber's parents canonically appear in the Japanese version, and as we can see, the people in charge of American episode 13 did a good job of making them look exactly as they should be. I also wanted to point out that Shinji got taken against his will, and this helicopter pilot should probably be in charge of Bismarck because he's really good. Marianne's father has been abducted by Deadcula forces in the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter. The team goes there, there's a big fight, but they are too late to rescue the doctor for now. This is another Japanese-only episode. While exploring the asteroid field in search for the doctor, the team finds a group of guerrilla fighters. We'll get introduced to one of the pilots called Catherine, and she will actually show up again later. One of the nearby settlements has been taken over by a Deadcula force, and I'm guessing this execution scene is part of the reason the episode got cut from America, even if it's completely bloodless. The local leader is very conciliatory to the Deadcula and even suggests a party to ease tensions. Of course, the human population, including his daughter, don't like him very much. He hires a woman to handle the party, but she's actually working for the rebels. Taking advantage of this, the good guys disguise themselves and smuggle a truck with explosives inside the city. After the delivery, the team meets the mayor and he tells them to leave. Shortly after, the Bismarck gets close and the Deadcula release a giant robot to fight them. This kinda makes me wonder what the plan really was, if they were going to charge in with the Bismarck anyway. On the ground, members of the resistance clear the innocents and then detonate the bomb. From the flames, the mayor's daughter appears and she was the leader of the local resistance all along. When the Deadcula commander threatens to shoot, the mayor redeems himself and gets shot, but manages to kill the commander with his last breath. The episode ends with our boy Jesse Blue that makes his first appearance on the Japanese version right here, which means he was there, survived the explosion, and didn't really do anything. The episode starts with Jesse Blue taking over the task of transporting Dr. Lubell into the main Deadcula base to the annoyance of the other officers. In the English version, they have to insert extra dialogue about Nemesis inviting a human. He also has way too much information and asks very awkward questions.
Now, Jesse, is it true you're in love with a star sheriff named April?
Yeah, that's true. So?
Jesse, is it true you got cucked by Saber Rider? Also, I know the character's original name is Pierrot, but I just really like to say Jesse Blue. Anyways, Jesse shows up on the Bismarck's radar on purpose, and they send Bill to scout ahead. This gives way to a lengthy sequence where Jesse outplays Bill at every step, doing a good job setting him up as a credible threat. He also uses a very OP armored suit that the Deadcula should probably be mass-producing, but what do I know? Bill manages to escape and join the Bismarck for a quick giant mecha battle. After they make their way inside the Deadcula base, they are too late, as Jesse has already taken Marianne's father away. On what seems like a normal day, a sniper attacks Shinji and Marianne, but before they can deal with him, a mysterious man shoots him, leaving only a medal behind. Back at the Bismarck, Bill recognizes the medal and searches the city until finally arriving at a bar. Or a juice bar if you're watching the American version. The man is Alan Murray, one of Bill's mentors. He has been on the run ever since he was involved in an incident with the military. Not long after, Alan is spotted by Richard during an explosion near the Bismarck. Next, a Deadcula squad attacks the nearby city, and while fighting, Bill spots Alan again and attempts to bring him in, but actually loses the Western-style duel. Before leaving, Alan tells him the true objective of the Deadcula. While the Bismarck has the obligatory giant mecha fight, we actually follow Alan returning to the bar from earlier, and he shoots all the Deadcula that were running a base there. The fact that he's a bounty hunter now was supposed to be a reveal here, but in the American version they just tell you from the beginning. At this point I don't know if he ever shows up again, but it would be interesting if he does. A Deadcula group called the Ghost Squadron has been successfully attacking freighters and stealing supplies, and the Bismarck has been assigned to escort the transports and find out where are the Deadcula coming from. While doing some research, Richard befriends a girl, and she's a Deadcula, isn't she? The Ghost Squadron keeps evading the Bismarck, and only after meeting the girl for the second time, Richard begins to suspect. After a second failure to protect a freighter, Richard sets the girl up with fake information. This leads to the Bismarck ambushing the squad and tracking the base to destroy it. The episode ends with Richard becoming a supreme gentleman and cutting the spy down in dramatic fashion. The American version kinda chickens out of showing the whole sequence. Oh, spare me the pain expression, you still have a girl back on Ganymede. The Bismarck team investigates a seemingly peaceful city, but it doesn't take long for them to discover that certain citizens are wearing a mind-controlling device in their ear. They also befriend an orphaned kid that lives alone with his sister, and Shinji bonds with him over the tragic loss of his father. The Deadcula take advantage of this by threatening the kid's sister and sending Shinji into a trap. Despite knowing this, Shinji goes alone anyway and of course survives with a slight injury. This leads to a fight with the same model of giant mecha we have seen for the last 3 or 4 episodes. Surprisingly, the Bismarck is in trouble, but the kids pull one of the biggest bullshit moves in the whole show to win the fight. This is the last American-produced episode, and it's quite a fever dream. It all starts with the team helping a captured alien beast. Their kind are actively being hunted by our boy Banquo on his final appearance on the American show. The Star Sheriffs track down the Outrider mothership, and when they enter hyperspace to go back to their dimension, Saber follows them by himself and gets teleported into the Vapor Zone. Saber sneaks all the way into Nemesis' throne room, and his 3 angelic-looking kid bodyguards turn into literal devils, which would have been pretty metal if it wasn't so lame. While running, Saber defeats the devils, which of course don't die, they just turn into people. Being trapped in a bridge with fire down below, Saber duels Nemesis and he's totally not Darth Vader lightsaber. Nemesis then extracts all the oxygen out of the room because he doesn't need to breathe, and wins.
You pitiful humans! Farewell, Saber Rider.
He tries to kill Saber by leaving him alone with the wildebeests from the beginning, but it just so happens to be the one he helped. Using his new friends, he forces everyone to run away, but our boy Banquo gets left behind. And here comes the most baffling lore decision. Shooting a vapor beam in the vapor zone turns him human.
Look at his lips!
You can see the Bismarck coming to pick Saber up, but how did they go back to the human dimension? Do they even have the technology? I'm thinking too much again. Banquo becomes a peaceful farmer, and the episode ends. In this episode, the Deadkula are building a new fortress in the middle of a city using human labor, and we see Pierrot with a human girl named Chiruka. The Bismarck team plans to infiltrate and figure out they could use the girl, even if they know she's willingly working for the bad guys. Marianne offers to be the one to befriend her. But what we don't know is that Chiruka is in love with Pierrot. She discovers two rogue workers, and after a small fight, she shoots them. The American version surprisingly shows this, but it's sure to say a stun gun about 27 times so that the kids don't know those two are super dead.
Yeah, you drop that stun gun right now, you hear me? I can't stand up.
Marianne puts zero effort in her disguise, but still manages to save Chiruka from a mob of angry wives. We'll also hear the story of how she was rescued by Pierrot from a car accident. As soon as possible, Marianne starts sneaking around and freeing the workers, and eventually the final confrontation happens. Chiruka hesitates and Pierrot walks in and immediately starts gloating about how he doesn't care about her, even though it's hardly convenient, he's just a dick that way. Chiruka struggles with Pierrot and gets shot twice. What a gentleman! He later plays around and delays shooting Marianne just enough for help to arrive. Pierrot runs away and Chiruka dies in Marianne's arms. There's a giant mecha fight and ends up with the whole fortress blowing up. At the end, we have the typical sad ending for the dead girl. Of course, the American version just goes, "Oh, she must have run away."
She must have run away because she was afraid.
Yeah. I never actually saw this episode growing up, and I wonder if I had believed she was still alive. In this Japanese exclusive episode, a big Deadkula fleet is approaching planet Juno, and the Bismarck has been ordered to help with the evacuation of the city and to destroy the local mineral water plant. While overseeing the evacuation, Bill runs into a woman that says that her boyfriend's family doesn't want to leave. The family are the owners of the water plant and don't want to abandon it. Bill and the girl try to make them see reason but get detained at gunpoint. As the army gets closer and the Alliance fleet struggles to defend, Richard goes to look for Bill and prepares to face his biggest challenge yet, an independent black woman. Eventually the situation gets under control, and Bill and Richard leave the family to solve their own problems. With the team reunited, they can start fighting the generic giant mecha. I guess they gave up designing new stuff. Eventually the son of the family takes charge and blows up the hydrogen tanks in the plant, in just a way that happens to help the Bismarck win the battle. After it's all over, we have a nice, happy ending. The episode opens up with a Deadkula council discussing why the Bismarck is so strong and how to possibly stop it. We're almost at the 40 episode mark, but it's better late than never. Pierrot attempts to bait the team into going to an isolated planet with a secret base, using a recording of Marianne's father, But as they get closer, Shinji and Richard decide it's too suspicious, and Bill and Marianne want to go in. This triggers a bit of a fight between the team, and Marianne runs away crying.
シンジ君なんか嫌いよ。
Eventually she goes to the planet by herself, and the Bismarck runs after her. There's a fight with a generic giant mecha, but the small twist is that the Deadcula base is real and they have some kind of satellite beam. The Bismarck is trapped inside this new weapon, but when trying to blow the base up, Pierrot exposes Dr. Lubell to force them to lower their weapons. This secret laser weapon kinda sucks, by the way. They are there for what it seems like several minutes without suffering any kind of visible damage. After some yelling and some tears, Shinji fires on the base, just slightly off-center, hoping the Doctor survives. The episode ends with both Pierrot and the Doctor surviving and sending a message. This leaves hope for the team to rescue him later. In this episode, the team sneaks into a Deadcula-occupied town in hopes of infiltrating a nearby fortress full of prisoners. They befriend the lady that makes food for the base and her family to provide cover, until eventually they can sneak in one of the delivery trucks. While releasing all prisoners, the weird terrorist kids use their toy planes with bombs strapped to them to take some radio towers down, and this allows the boys to ask for backup. The murder kids also blow up a whole-ass helicopter with another toy plane. There's a short fight with a new model of giant mecha that was a nice surprise. After, the Deadcula commander seems to have escaped, but the psycho kids crush him to death with logs. The episode ends with one of the kids touching Marianne's butt and Bill getting slapped. This was cut in America, of course. What a weird episode. While in the search of another Deadcula base, the team befriends a girl that takes them to the city, where humans and Deadcula seem to be living in peace with each other. The team attempts to reason with the mayor, but are forced to escape the local police force along with the girl, named Flora. Turns out she's the mayor's daughter, so the Bismarck is forced to leave the planet. Shinji goes back down the planet by himself and finds the secret factory the Deadcula were using to make more war mecha. Inside, he saves Flora, who was about to get herself killed. Shinji distracts the base to allow Flora to escape, but Pierrot is also there and reads his intentions, so he orders the base to be closed down. The girl escapes, but Shinji is captured by Pierrot. Pierrot actually makes a good choice here by ordering Shinji to be executed. But sadly, Richard and Bill had already infiltrated into the base themselves and helped him escape. The team eventually gets surrounded, but the local humans arrive to help the good guys for once. There's another giant mecha fight. Wasn't this a mecha factory? There should have been more. Anyways, Shinji says goodbye to Flora and the episode ends. The episode begins with the team going to planet Leto, which is protected by an asteroid field. The only way to navigate it is by using the planet's automated system. However, there's an accident almost immediately. The boys inspect the wreckage only to find one survivor, a girl. Sometime later, at the local hospital, her brother shows up and he's visually upset that the Bismarck team is here. We also discover that the girl is temporarily blind. The team decides to investigate the control center, while Bill goes to visit the girl in the hospital. Wait, didn't we see this episode already? Anyway, as it usually happens, the girl's brother is Hans, the chief of the control center, and the next time he's in the hospital, we see him poison her food. Thankfully, a rat eats the poisoned food first and dies. This is enough for the team to know that Hans is a Deadcula spy, but instead of busting him immediately, they play with him, doing things like cutting access to water and planting fake evidence. Eventually, he leads them to the real Hans. Fake Hans gets on a big generic mecha for a fight, and he gets a nice custom death animation for it. At the end, Hans' sister Medea recovers her vision and ignores Bill because she's racist against Americans. A rare female Deadcula commander lands on a nature-preserved planet full of dinosaur-like creatures. The only human family in the planet manages to contact Bismark before all communications are cut. The family gets pursued and separated by the Deadcula. The son thinks his parents died and wanders the land alone. Later, he finds out the Deadcula are capturing the wild dinosaurs alive. So the Lady Commander's plan is that they will capture all the dinosaurs, turn them into cyborgs, and plant bombs in them to attack human settlements. This idea is so stupid, I swear it's going to be the plot of the next Jurassic Park movie, assuming it hasn't happened already. Finally, the Bismarck arrives at the planet and uses the kid's info to release all the dinosaurs. The commander chases them in a giant mecha, but a big stampede overruns the Deadcula base. Then, the comedy relief second-in-command shoots at the explosive dinosaurs, causing a chain reaction that vaporizes everyone in the vicinity. A strong, independent Deadcula commander, we hardly knew ya. Okay, so the good guys survive even though they probably shouldn't have? That was a freaking mushroom cloud, man. This is the last Japanese exclusive episode. Pierrot and his squad attack and take over a lonely space station. The Bismarck shows up to help, but Pierrot starts moving the station away. Shinji is hesitant to engage, but this stalemate is interrupted by an old friend, Captain Holiday. After reminding us of the Deadcula's dead planet, the captain tells the story on how he accidentally found the Hellperides, a suspiciously Death Star-shaped space station. The Bismarck leaves a decoy controlled by Holiday's robots, but it doesn't fool Pierrot for long. He manages to intercept the Bismarck before it reaches Hellperides, and we see that his new spaceship turns into a golden giant mecha. The Hellperides moves stealthily by hiding itself using asteroids and planets as cover. So the Bismarck's plan is to damage the engines in such a way that they will crash onto the nearby asteroid. The Bismarck makes the shot, but Pierrot saves the day, and the Hellperides remains intact and moving towards Earth. The military leaders of Earth hesitate to attack Hellperides' base because they are hidden and they still have Lubel hostage. Meanwhile, the Bismarck gets a call from Catherine, that character from episode 30. Catherine's team has spotted Hellperides, so the Bismarck goes to their location. Inside the base, Pierrot is already scheming a new plan. During the battle, Lubel takes advantage of the chaos and escapes the room. I do have to mention this little scene where Marianne asserts her dominance and poor Catherine can't help but to leave heartbroken. On his way out, Lubel gets to see a Deadcula couple being depressed about the fake park, and later he gets saved by an old man who claims to be an archaeologist. The episode closes on the shocking revelation of a Moai statue, like the ones we have back on Earth. The episode begins with the boys exploring what seems like an abandoned ship in deep space. This is an opportunity to show some new toys, like the new guns with adjustable power settings and the rescue bags to protect you from the vacuum of space. Then they get ambushed and die. I wish. It was just a training exercise. Wait a second, how did the actors that got sucked into space survive? Anyway, the Alliance is running tests on who gets to execute the rescue mission of Dr. Lubel, and the one who will make the final choice is our buddy General Doms. While the team rests, Bill gets lured by a woman once again, and once again escapes an assassination attempt. The team correctly assumes that the general will be the next target. Then there's this really weird chase sequence where the Deadcula on bikes try to take out Shinji's car by jumping on it. They do have weapons on the front of the bike, which makes this move even more stupid. The main Deadcula spy goes for the obligatory giant mecha fight, which goes very predictably. This is one of these episodes where the Deadcula spies could have ended the war in about 100 different ways, but somehow managed to fumble it. The episode ends with Dr. Lubell talking with the old man about the commonalities between both species and how they could be connected because of the existence of the Moai status. But it's quickly revealed that the old man is an actor and it was all a deception organized by Pierrot. He even explains that the Moai is just something he read about somewhere and humans are just dumb like that. By this point, Pierrot is hard-carrying the whole villain race. The team gets close to Hellperides and receives heavy fire, but manages to land and enter the structure. Of course, all those machines destroy the Bismark, plant bombs in it, dismantle it, steal it, draw graffiti over it. There I go thinking again. The Deadcula captain, called Gesper, wants to chase and kill the team, but that gets in the way of Pierrot's ultimate plan. The captain goes rogue as soon as he can and gathers enough soldiers to face the team. Another agent of Pierrot's pretends to be friendly with the Doctor and gives him keys to a car. Funnily enough, Captain Gesper seems to have the team dead to rights, but the Doctor manages to create a big explosion that opens a hole into outer space. The space bubble wrap comes into play to save the Doctor and the team boards the Bismarck. See that? That's what I was talking about. The army of robot spiders just sat there the whole time. Anyways, the team gets away in what seems like a happy ending. The Bismarck is about to arrive on Mars. Before landing, the Doctor expresses his desire to negotiate peace. The team, of course, doesn't take this very well. A meeting with all the Alliance leaders will take place, and the Doctor pushes for peace after explaining all the false things he learned on his stay. During this, the Deadcula establish communication, and Husa proposes a truce. After some time, Dr. Lubell manages to convince all the leaders to go for the truce. The whole team is against it and tries to push back. Later, Bill reunites with Joan, the girl from all the way back to episode 17, but the date is interrupted by the arrival of Pierrot, who will serve as the ambassador for the Deadcula. The bombshell of the negotiation is that the Deadcula demand the Bismarck to be dismantled and the team dissolved. In the end, the team is forced to turn in their badges, but they are certainly not happy about it. The episode closes when, back on Earth, everyone has to watch the Bismarck being dismantled. This episode begins a little earlier in the day. Husa lands on the planet and shakes hands with the Earth leaders for a photo op. Meanwhile, Dr. Lubell is inspecting Hellperides. Weapons have been removed and deactivated, and we also see the main computer of the station. That will become important later. We return to where we left off with the Bismarck being dismantled, and there is another surprise. Pierrot demands the engine to be destroyed, and surprisingly, not only does he get his wish, he also pulls the strongest gun in all the galaxy and melts the engine himself. Once the ceremony is over, Bill follows Pierrot into the Hellperides station, where he uses a secret passage hidden inside a Moai. In there, he finds many containers full of Deadcula. Bill also finds Pierrot kneeling and praying. This is another of Pierrot's schemes, pretending this was some kind of cemetery. Bro, wait until he leaves the room before activating the secret army. The rest of the episode follows the members of the team. Bill hangs out with Joan, and we get a more detailed story about how his parents died. I know I usually say better late than never, but the series is almost over. This is really bad timing. Richard also has a hard time trying to adapt to a peaceful life. And Shinji and Marianne finally do boyfriend and girlfriend things on screen. The episode closes with the Deadcula betraying the peace and launching an attack. You know, sometimes I think that if they had waited a bit and prepared better, they could have won the whole war. We get a quick reminder of everything that has happened thus far, and we quickly cut to Shinji and Marianne unable to enjoy their poolside vacation. The Deadcula's strike on Mars seems to have been pretty effective, and they have gained control in a single swift attack. The Federation quickly resists the urge of complaining about bringing violent refugees. Sure is nice to see only science fiction. It's not time for anger and sadness, however, as Dr. Lubell also has a good surprise: a fully assembled Bismarck that has been upgraded with a new engine. As the human fleet leaves Earth, Pierrot is on the Hellperides ready to attack as soon as they leave. Our boy is building a new weapon called the Hyper Photon Cannon, which is, well, it's the Death Star laser. Called it. And at the risk of repeating myself, if they had just waited a little longer for the weapon to be ready, they probably would have won. Anyways, the Bismarck scanners pick up an energy signal and figure out that the Hellperides is active and hiding behind the moon. As they draw closer, a battle starts, and we can see that the new Bismarck is even more disgustingly overpowered than before. The flow of battle changes when Pierrot fires the Death Star ray to destroy Earth's base on the moon and blows a chunk right out of it. The episode closes with Pierrot demanding a complete surrender of Earth.
ハイパーフォトン砲の威力は見た通りだ。次の標的は緑の地球だ。
The Federation refuses to surrender, and Pierrot starts preparations to charge the photon cannon and fire at Earth, even if half the planet becomes a nuclear wasteland. The mission for the Bismarck is to enter Hellperides again and destroy the main computer before the cannon recharges. Also, General Dom's small fleet shows up to provide support. The boys quickly take over a Deadcula ship and use it to enter the Hellperides. On Mars, Earth's army seems to be winning, to the point that Husa orders Pierrot to leave Earth and provide support. And back on the Hellperides, the boys are locked out of the way to the main computer, so they come up with the plan to destroy the 3 secondary computers instead, so they separate and go stealth. Near the end of the episode, Pierrot finally makes the decision to stay and leave Husa to die, and he also manages to keep the crew loyal. However, something strange happens, as it seems the main computer has gone insane. When Pierrot goes to check, the computer talks to him in what seems to be Husa's voice. We start where we left off, with the main computer going absolutely nuts. Pierrot panics and tries to shut the machine off with no success. Meanwhile, Bill finds the main computer building, but only has a couple of minutes before the bombs go off. He breaks the wall down and faces Pierrot in another Wild West duel, but they get interrupted by the computer, who starts shooting. Shinji and Richard return to their meeting point to escape, but Bill is not there yet, and Shinji goes to look after him. Back on Mars, the Federation army is winning, and Husa realizes Pierrot's betrayal, and it seems their defeat cannot be avoided. Bill chases Pierrot down, and we have a replay of their duel from episode 31. And I don't mean a few frames, it's the whole thing completely copy-pasted. Except this time the bombs go off and Pierrot escapes to his ship and showers him with missiles, just as Shinji arrives. With the help of General Doms, the boys escape and board the Bismarck, but Bill seems to be seriously hurt. At the same time, Pierrot thinks the destruction of the secondary computers could work in his favor. At the end of the episode, we see how Dr. Lubell and the military leaders are watching Mars, and they witness the figure of Husa moving through the flames. His robes burn only to reveal a completely cybernetic body. Bill is in the hospital wounded and won't be able to move for a few days. Later, Earth's fleet and the Bismarck start the last battle against the Hellperides station. Pierrot returns to the computer room only to be attacked by the defense systems and forced out. Even after that, he just sits in a control room prepared to give orders, but there's bad news. The main computer seems to have modified the route of the station to make it crash against Earth. Dr. Lubell gives the Bismarck their objective. They have to navigate through a trench and shoot a proton torpedo into an exhaust port. Oh, shut up, it's basically the same thing. They have to blow up the generator for the main cannon. The next sequence was a bit confusing. The Bismarck enters the main gun just as it was about to fire. Then, Bismarck fires the organic formation and the clutch causes a huge shockwave. The Bismarck escaped unscathed, but every other chip close to the beam was destroyed. Also, the beam seemingly went nowhere. I'm a bit disappointed we didn't get a nuclear apocalypse ending. After this, the station begins to pick up speed to collide against Earth. And by this point, Pierrot doesn't care anymore and launches his golden mecha against the Bismarck to delay it as much as possible. In that moment, Bill arrives, having left the hospital, and the Bismarck gets away and stands before the main computer. The twist is pretty obvious at this point. When Husa lost his real body in the battle 15 years ago, presumably during Shinji's father's sacrifice, all his memories and personality became part of the main computer. In the end, the Bismarck destroys the core of the computer and the base blows up right before reaching Earth, and sadly taking out the best part of the series with it. RIP Jesse Pierrot Blue. The show has the balls of trying to pull off a last-minute fake-out death scene with Bill, with tears and sad music and everything.
乱暴にすんなよ。俺怪我人なんだぜ。
もうやだ。
いい加減にしてくれよな、まったく。
After that, the show ends with Galaxy Dream as the background song. And that's it. More than 50 episodes of星銃士ビスマルク are finally over. And I tell you right now, if I ever do this again, I'm going to choose something way shorter. Anyways, the mystery of why this show does kind of fade out of history has become apparent to me. Trying to be as objective as possible, the show is unremarkable. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm forever keeping the rose-tinted glasses on for this one. I will always smile while watching the Bismarck's transformation sequence, or the animated scenes of Saber running around in the horse cutting stuff, no matter how much they copy-pasted in different episodes. And scenes like Jesse melting down the Bismarck's engine did make an impression way back then. But still, unremarkable is the best adjective I can think of. Sure, I would have killed to have official toys as a kid, but the armor and mecha designs are really nothing that special. Characters, while not awful, get very few interactions between them, whether positive or negative. They kinda feel like a bunch of nothings most of the time, and that's one of the reasons I was cheering for the bad guys on more than one occasion. Side characters that could have been good are also horribly wasted. And then there's my favorite collection of nitpicks, like not following up on certain plot elements, big or small, or the power scaling being very inconsistent. I do enjoy my Planet Busters, but you have to earn them. Still, all those details I mentioned are not that bad. I can move past it, but for something to go from mediocre to good, you need those details. The only thing that I cannot forgive is all that reuse animation. Like sure, it's a long show and at some points you have to cut a few corners, but here it's just so blatant and so noticeable I can't make excuses for it. There's also something to be said about the American version. They did try to kidify something that wasn't all that adult in the first place, and once you notice the lengths they went to just to achieve that, it's impossible to ignore. Obviously dead characters speaking up never fails to make me laugh now.
Call June. Call her right away.
I will, Uncle Wade, I promise.
The American-made episodes are not all that bad if you can look past the inherent goofiness of it all. The fact that Banquo even exists fills my soul with joy. And I can't end the video without mentioning the American soundtrack made by Dale Shacker. The Japanese soundtrack does feel the Japan's 80s nostalgia niche, but is way too mellow for an action show. The American soundtrack helps a lot to push the Western theme and to represent the high action on screen. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say it's probably the most memorable thing about Saber Rider. Well, that was a brutal amount of jumping. Don't forget to do all the YouTube things you want. I especially like it when people check out my old videos. I'm returning to video games now, so see you on the next one.